Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to crack right on. We've got a fair few sessions to power through this afternoon. Obviously, again, thank you all for your participation and engagement with the questions this morning. We're going to jump right into our next speaker. We've got three talks, I should say, back to back, then another break. Straight into the first one. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, which is Niveditha Mogali, who's Director of Enterprise Omnichannel Analytics at GlaxoSmithKline. Nivi's been kind enough to join us today to give a talk around future-proofing your omnichannel for 2030. Obviously, buzzword, there's a lot going on, different opinions and definitions of what exactly that is, but Nivi's got a really interesting account on how we can kind of view this in some different perspectives and obviously evolve as the needs of our customers evolve over time. Interesting fact about Nivi, she speaks 5 languages, so I don't know what language the presentation will be delivered in. I'm sure we're about to find out. But without further ado, please join me in welcoming Nivi as our next speaker this afternoon.
Thank you, Simon. And also, by the way, thank you for sponsoring all our travel to the future. It is the year 2030. Let's take a look at Dr. Thia's typical day and how she treats patients. Her day starts with virtual consults informed by real-time biometric data from her patient's wearable devices. AI then personalizes some treatment options based on this data to inform her what will suit her patients based on the patient's genetic profile. She later meets with a sales rep to understand what are not only the latest market therapeutic drugs out there, but also the rep is there to inform the doctor on some very valuable real-time insights that are custom to Dr. Thia's practice and patient needs. She then does some research, not through the traditional methods, but through an immersive AI-driven platform. This platform will show her how certain drugs perform in similar patient populations. With this simple interface, Dr. Thia can also run simulations on her own patients to compare how different treatment outcomes might work. This is no hypothetical situation, but a very realistic future that we are headed towards. This is pharma marketing and sales at its best, delivering some custom real-time insights focused specific to the doctor's practice. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Niveditha Mogali, and I'm here to walk you through 3 strategies that are going to help you prepare for this future. The foundation to anything we do today and can do tomorrow is data. So let's start with data strategy, right? The biggest challenge today that we have in terms of creating a true omnichannel experience is the lack of integration between numerous data processes and systems that we currently have. Despite technological advances, we do struggle with fragmented data, and this gets in the way of creating that seamless customer experience. So what do you really need for that true omnichannel strategy to succeed? Going forward to the future, it is going to be imperative to have that one source of truth that all your internal teams can go to. Without this, you're likely to miss opportunities and deliver disjointed experiences. Data availability. This is my favorite, because in our realm, the data needs some extra caffeine before it can come to the meeting and create some insights. We deal with weeks of upstream processing delays, mainly due to the compliance within our industry. This, however, prevents us from actioning on some real-time insights and gets in the way of making some faster decisions and having that competitive advantage. So how do we mitigate for this? Plan to build systems that are scalable and functional in the future that can actually process some real-time data. I know AI is thrown around a lot, but we can't lose sight of it. This is going to be something that is going to coexist with all the other technologies out there. So how can we leverage AI in terms of not only processing all of this real-time data, but also giving you the insights you need at the exact right time, whether you're in the doctor's office or whether you're creating your campaign. In terms of data compliance, I just touched on this, that we are one of the most heavily regulated industries, all the way from drug development to drug administration. Right? We also need to consider how we store our data, how we share our data, and all the guardrails that come with our regulatory standards. In 2030, as more and more data gets available, as more and more advanced technologies come up to speed, we're going to have to balance innovation with compliance. And this is something we all will have to figure out collectively. So gear up. The next strategy that I want to touch on is marketing and sales. The key to acing this strategy is being customer-centric. You have to put your customer front and center, and you have to be very, very intentional about it. We do know that HCPs today interact with companies through various touch points, and despite best efforts, whether that's data challenges or other organization limitations, there is a possibility that we still deliver disjointed messages between our sales and marketing teams. And a lot of other topics earlier that we heard today touched on this too. How can we all make this cohesive? According to Indigene's 2023 report, nearly 60% of HCPs mentioned that they get the same experience as all the other doctors. It's the same messaging. They also mentioned that it's a very disjointed experience between what they hear from the rep and what content is pushed through from the digital channels to them. So how do we mitigate for this? It's very important to have this lockstep approach between both of these marketing and sales functions. And it's also important that there's real-time feedback flowing between both of these functions. And that is how you also create trust between the doctors and our companies. In terms of omnichannel, today we are having much more evolved conversations than a couple of years ago. We've made so many investments, we've done so much coordination and effort in this area that now we are seeing the need to realize the impact more and more from this area. According to Accenture's 2022 report, companies that employed omnichannel strategies showed a three times more engagement in terms of the customer engagement as compared to companies who just followed traditional methods. The future, though, is going to move towards on-demand engagement. And what does this mean? This means that in addition to how doctors own their experiences today, in some forms through the digital channels, this is going to be heavily focused in 2030 to be very much on demand. They're going to use AI assistants, self-service chatbots, and get the information that they need. The question is, are we ready to cater to that sort of demand? And that's what we need to be thinking about. In terms of the content that goes out to all our doctors, right? Current approaches rely on traditional methods like using predictive analytics, where you understand the past behavior of doctors to predict what their next move is going to be. And that's what you work on. That's what your strategy is. This is no surprise, but in 2030, this is very much going to be AI-driven. That content is going to be tailored in real time, and based on the on-demand engagement from doctors, we have to be ready to push the relevant content through these self-service platforms. So it all needs to be cohesive when it comes together. That is the key takeaway here. What comes to mind when we think of the word optimization? Audience pool. Enhancements, okay? A/B testing. Sounds serious. Automation?
Incremental.
Okay, incremental.
Attribution.
Attribution. A lot of exemplary keywords that we're hearing in the room, right? And this is speaking to the fact about all the great minds that are here in the room today. I will say, when it comes to optimization for me, some days, especially in my personal life, it's making sure how I can convince both my kids to go and to the same activity in the evening so I can only drive once instead of going to two places. But we all use optimization one way or the other, right? It's more about the mindset. It's not another thing that you have to check the box on. It's more about how do I shift that mindset? How do I inculcate those same behaviors that I use day to day, not only in my personal life, but also when it comes to work? Healthcare landscape is evolving constantly. We know that, whether that's due to advances in technology, whether that's regulatory changes or HCP behavior changes. But to stay ahead, we need to be agile. We need to continuously optimize those strategies in real time to get that true impact out of our entire omnichannel strategy. Given some of the challenges that we discussed, whether that's data or whether that's lack of coordination between marketing and sales, we are slower to move from insight to action to impact. While real-time data is going to help a little bit with that agility, this also applies to how we collaborate internally. Cross-functional collaboration is essential and imperative on how you're going to adapt in the long term. All your teams need to be working shoulder to shoulder and also share that same vision and tweak strategies if necessary in the long run. We also need to be able to create smoother customer journeys for our HCPs, and we have to think about it slightly differently going into the future. Can we co-create newer self-service platforms by actually having a HCP sit in for the end-to-end design process? Can we take their feedback along the way? Getting their inputs in the entire journey is also going to get that buy-in in terms of the newer platforms that you're going to create for the future. This can be game-changing in terms of going that extra mile to create better value outcomes for patients, because by the time they get to see the doctor to the time they get on treatment, that time is going to shorten significantly if the HCPs have all the information that they need at their fingertips. And so co-creating these platforms will be a differentiator. According to IDC's report, global healthcare data was at 2 zettabytes in 2018. In 2025, this number is estimated to be around 36 zettabytes. And just to give clarity of scale, 1 zettabyte is about 1 billion terabytes. Can anyone take a guess of what this number is going to be in 2030? Random guess. 200? It's estimated to be around 120 zettabytes. So just let that sink in for a moment. You're going to have an information overload, whether that's through data or analytics or the results. By that point in time, you will move away from traditional test and learn methods, because there's going to be so many studies out there that there's going to be some baseline results that are going to be established. So when you think about designing your go-to-market strategy, you already have a good confidence on how your campaign is going to perform. And you'll have a pretty good understanding and confidence around how your HCPs are going to engage with you when you design and deploy that campaign. So what are you going to do with all the time that you're going to save through this? Use it instead to differentiate yourself from the competition. Stay ahead of market trends. That's how you can ace this area of optimization. Looking at the road ahead, we're not just talking about more channels or more advanced technology. We're envisioning a revolution in how we connect with healthcare professionals to reshape the very fabric of patient care. By focusing on these 3 strategies today, you all have the power to turn every touch point into a moment of impact, every interaction into a force of change. Because the future is not just about more engagement, it's about transforming lives. And that future starts with all of us here today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Nivi. Obviously, big picture topic here. Does anybody want to chime in with a couple of questions or comments before we transition on? I know it's the... oh, by the way, the room is going to cool down in a few moments. I know it's like a sauna in here right now. So, any questions or comments for Nivi at all? Anyone?
Looks like everybody is ready for 2030.
Right.
That's good.
That's validation right there. Okay, well, let's give Nivi a round of applause again for a wonderful talk.